All right, welcome into the Third and Wrong channel here. This is just Dillon today, so maybe we call it one and only. But um, I wanted to make a video today just by myself to talk about the Colts, and I just had my computer fall, so that's fun. But yeah, just want to make a video about the Colts today and give maybe some insight on why the Colts are the way that they are right now. Maybe if you're a Colts fan or if you're just curious of why we're failing right now. But before I get into everything, please drop a like. You can also comment or subscribe. Those obviously help us out a lot. And if you like this kind of thing, it keeps us motivated to keep doing it. So um, do that, and we'll get into the video.
I might act rude. I lost gang members, I can't act cool. I got gang scriptures in my tattoos. I was running from the police in my trap shoes. Posted trying to flip 100, I come back fool. Come from nothing, but I blossomed to a tycoon. Betrayal scars, can't stop thinking about them stab wounds. We might not catch him today, but he gon' die soon.
All right, getting into the video here. Like I said in the intro, we're going to talk about the Colts so far. Before I get into everything, I'm just going to kind of lay some groundwork for what's going on. We're in week 5 right now, heading into week 6. We just found out that Shaquille Leonard is not going to be playing yet again, and also that we ruled out someone else. I totally forgot who we ruled out. Kwity Paye. Yeah, sorry, Kwity Paye. But this Colts team right now, I think, is an indication of more than just who we are this year, but who we have been with Frank Reich and Chris Ballard together, at least. And the reason why I say that is, one, I do appreciate Frank Reich at the end of the day. I don't think I would fire Frank Reich or anything like that. It's just something that there can be an improvement on, and I think that Reich is able to do that. But basically, the last 4 or 5 years, the Colts have had hurdles that they can't hurdle, and that mainly has been week 1 games. Even just in general, the first month of the season, it's been consistently bad to be a Colts fan. We also have a hard time with divisional rivals, which is probably the biggest key into getting to the playoffs. And I would say we also have a struggle getting points on the board in anything other than the first drive of the first half. So the reason why I say that I think this falls on the Frank Reich is that's where you have to let the sword rest, right? Is with the leader. So Frank Reich has a good mentality of 1% better. We persevere. We have this attitude of leadership and winners and everything like that, right? Well, when I look around the rest of the league, I'm looking at the Brian Dayballs. I'm looking at the I'm totally blanking his name. Rabel with Tennessee. I look at Bill Belichick, Mike Tomlin, and a lot of these coaches that are just known for winning and known to win without having everyone that they need. And for some reason, they're able to do it, and Frank Reich is not right now. Frank Reich has a good come from behind, comeback kid story and everything like that. But where's his, let's dominate from the beginning. Let's put our best foot forward every single time. Let's win every single drive. Like, I feel like there's this air of, I wouldn't say procrastination because I suffer from procrastination a lot. One of the main reasons why I wasn't able to even finish college, to be honest, I procrastinate. Like I think that is a real thing here. Frank Reich, I think, procrastinates scoring in a sense. And he thinks that you can just score later. You can score more before the end of the game. And as we've seen this year, that's just not the case. We were very close to doing that in the Texans game, but we weren't even able to score in the Jaguars game. We barely scored enough to beat the Chiefs, and we held them to 15 points or 12 points, I think, or whatever. And then we score 17 points, I think, against the Texans, and then just 12 against the Broncos. Like, that's what Patrick Mahomes does in a third quarter randomly. That's the kind of points that the Jets put up just randomly, like the last week. You can name all these different teams that put up 21 points in a quarter, and we haven't even scored 21 points this year. And to me, if you're an offensive coach, that is one of the biggest red flags is holding off when you're scoring one, but also just not even scoring more than 21 points. Like that's your that's your pride and joy, right? Is being able to score. Um, and to be fair, he hasn't been given. He doesn't make the decisions on the offensive line, being on the team. He might have an impact on who on the team gets to start, and how to coach them and everything like that. But Frank Reich isn't the one letting Mark Lewinsky or Chris Reed walk to other teams while we have cap space enough right now to have them on our roster. Having them on the roster would be more important than having some of our defensive players on the roster at this point. And that's the big tenet of Ballard is, you know, get the trenches fixed up and then worry about everything else. Yet they worried about everything else this offseason and didn't really fix the trenches other than drafting Bernhard Raimann, which granted I think he does have a lot of upside, and then trading for Ngakwe, which has worked out, I think, which is a good move. But that was Gus Bradley vouching for him and that guy knowing the system in a way. So, it's a hard thing to see what Frank Reich's doing. And obviously, we can't change what I think needs to be changed right now, which is the coaching under Frank Reich. I think I heard a report that the last person to really, I wouldn't say be an antagonist, but to question Frank Reich on what he wants to do, left with being a head coach at Philadelphia with Nick Sirianni, and you know I do think that the Colts are able to put up points on the board and everything like that, if they were able to have an offensive line, but you have to be better as a coach to overcome these things. Like you don't just get to score 20 points and win and get into the playoffs. Like you have to be putting up consistently over 30 points to be in the playoffs, in my opinion. And the Colts just aren't doing that, for whatever reason. So, that's where the Colts are right now. Just struggling to score. They're not having a struggle to stop people from scoring. Their defense is a lot better. But looking forward, the Colts have a few things that they can do. They have Dennis Kelly, which I think is a very good depth quality offensive lineman. He's been able to start before. He started with the Packers and the Titans in the past and held up, or at least wasn't a liability, which is right now what we have on our offensive line. We have liabilities. We had Matt Pryor starting at left tackle for the first 4 games. Finally, we had moved Bernhard Raimann over there. Now we have Matt Pryor on the right side of the line, which is harder to switch that position in the middle of the year than just adding someone that's already played that position for the last 2 or 3 years with Dennis Kelly. And even if we don't want to put Dennis Kelly at right tackle, let's find someone else to play right guard than Braden Smith, who is a really good right tackle. Those positions are the most important, left tackle, right tackle. Let's get people that can sit in those positions and hold up. And then we can mess around with right guard. I mean, obviously, Danny Pinter doesn't belong there. Well, and I don't think Will Fries belongs there right now. But let's find something between Matt Pryor, which I would say is probably not the best decision, but between Matt Pryor, Braden Smith, and Dennis Kelly, we should be able to solve the right guard and right tackle positions. So that is priority number one with the Colts, because if we can't do that, we can't run the ball, and if we can't do that, Matt Ryan's going to continue to get sacked, continue to fumble the ball, and continue to be rushed into throwing interceptions, and that's the reason why we haven't been scoring. There have been good plays where, Alec Pierce is mossing people 2-3 times a game at this point. Michael Pittman's pulling down tough receptions every game. We have a different tight end popping off every game, but we can't do that if we don't have an offensive line being competent, essentially being an NFL offensive line, which is just something that we haven't seen yet. So, if we can get that right side of the line fixed and get back to the expectation that the Colts had at the beginning of the year of who they are, Darius Leonard's out there, Kwity Paye and everything like that is healthy. I'm going to look forward to the Colts season with that in mind, and see where the Colts are going to be. And then after that, we can kind of talk about the different things like, are they going to make the playoffs? Are we going to have any Pro Bowlers or anything like that? So, but let me kind of go through the next couple games. I'm going to give you a W or an L for those. Just going to be my instant reaction. Honestly, it's going to take too long to kind of go through and do the matchup games and stuff like that. But let me pull up here. Don't want that. We want Google. All right, so our next game is going to be Week 6, Jacksonville at home. I'm going to give us a W there. I do think that we'll have enough fixed. Plus, our defense will be able to stop them decently well. And then at Tennessee Titans, I think we will win that one as well. Mainly because this is me saying, right, like our offensive line is back to normal. The Titans are a little bit more hurt. They are still without Treylon Burks. You're really counting on Robert Woods to solve everything and Derrick Henry. So I'm going to go next two games we got to win. Then we got the Commanders at home. That's a win. So if things get fixed right now, we're looking at being 5-2-1, atop of the AFC South, looking ahead of the rest of the schedule. Then I believe that we would lose to the Patriots, mainly because they are playing really good defense right now, and it is in New England in November, which is harder to win there than at home. So, what did I say? 5-2-1, 5-3-1 now. The Las Vegas Raiders in Las Vegas, I think we can win that game. That'd be 6-3-1. Then we play the Eagles at home. I would give us a loss there, 6-4-1. And then we play the Steelers at home. I think that's a winnable game, 7-3-1. And then we have the Dallas Cowboys at Dallas on Sunday Night Football. I'll give that to the Dallas Cowboys, and that is 7-4-1, if I'm not mistaken. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yeah, 7-4-1. And then last four games we have at the Vikings. I would give that 7-5-1. Then Chargers at home, 7-6-1. And then I think we win the next two games. That'd be 9-6-1. That math does not add up. So let's see here. Jacksonville win. Tennessee win. Commanders win. Raiders win. Steelers win. And then Giants, Texans win. That's 7 wins. So 9 right there. So that would be 9-7-1 at the end of the year. Which, if we are able to do that, that puts us at the bottom of the wild card spot. As long as we continue to win out, we might win the AFC South just at 9-7-1. Or if for some reason we get jumped by another team, that would put us at the bottom of the wild card. So I would say where we're at right now, if things get fixed, we can make it to the playoffs. It heavily depends on health of our team and the cohesiveness of our offensive line and the return of Darius Leonard. If Darius Leonard returns in the next 2 weeks, we have a really good shot of beating a lot of teams, mainly because that frees up Zaire and Bobby Okereke to come in, be fresh and stuff like that. They've been playing very well, but it gives people ability to stay fresh at the end of the game and everything like that. That would be really nice. Also, DeForest Buckner staying healthy is a big key, and just keeping that defensive lineman room fresh, not out of breath and everything like that. That makes those fourth quarters a whole lot easier. And then the biggest factor of all this obviously depends on the offensive line. If we can get that fixed and our defense is playing the way it is now, I don't think there's a lot of teams that we will just be a doormat to, and there's going to be a lot of games that we win because of the ability of our defense right now. So I think we get carried into the playoffs by our defense. I think we get carried into the AFC South champions with just the defense there, as long as our offense is capable. If the offensive line is just adequate, and at that point is asking a lot. The biggest threats to that right now are the Titans. They can win without their best players on the field. The Jaguars are just too young right now. Trevor Lawrence is improving. He's looking better, but as we've seen last two games, he just hasn't had the confidence to be a better quarterback. It seems like he's taking on too much of the burden, and that's just slowing him down too much. And I think he can be better, but that's something that needs to be fixed in the offseason a little bit more. And then the Texans are not a good team right now. Davis Mills played great last year for being a rookie, but he's not playing good for a sophomore right now, in my opinion. I think that they're going to be very keen on trading up into getting CJ Stroud or Bryce Young, and I'm going to lean that they go Bryce Young. And I think they trade up with their Browns pick. If the Browns pick stays high as it is right now, they have a really good chance of trading up into the top 5, top 3. I mean, they have to be top 3 to get Bryce Young. So I could definitely see that happening in the future. But right now, the way I see it, I think as long as the offensive line is able to keep Matt Ryan upright, I think the Colts take the AFC South. Very, very small margin. Now, I'm not saying that they're going to run away with it. I'm not saying that they're going to beat every single team along the way. But I do think that they get ahead of the Titans here in the next 2 weeks. And I think that the Jaguars get pushed a little bit too far behind. And no one on the AFC South roster is good enough to beat a lot of these other teams right now. So these next 2 weeks are super critical. And I do see them coming out on top, essentially, the Colts. They do come from behind way too much, but that's going to benefit them right now. And I think in the offseason, what you got to do is you got to add someone that is young, young-minded offensive coordinator. I think Marcus Brady is a good dude, but he's Frank Reich. He's like a growth on Frank Reich. He's not a separate thinker so much as like Nick Sirianni was. So maybe you look at a Josh McCown, giving him an offensive coordinator position, looking at some of these, younger minded coaches, because you're not going to be able to steal an offensive coordinator to be an offensive coordinator unless they're part of a regime that just that just lost their head coach. So maybe we could look at whoever's on the Panthers, but they also don't have a good offensive coordinator, I would imagine. And we just look at, who is someone that can challenge Frank Reich, not to undermine Frank Reich and him be the offensive coordinator, but we need to bring someone in that is able to handle the job, but also say, okay, Frank, that's good, but we're looking at being better at this right now. Here's how we could do it. Here's how Matt Ryan could do X, Y, and Z. Here's how our offensive line can make up for this, efficient or deficiency. And doing that would help the Colts the most moving forward, because I do not want to lose Frank Reich yet. I do think he's a good coach, but it seems like there's a lot of yes men in that room. At least that's what the reports are saying. So if we can't, you know, if we don't fire Frank Reich, and that's what I don't want, we need to have someone new in there that is able to light yet another fire and get us to start off hot. And I would say Josh McCown is probably one of the best options for that, but I doubt that we're going to get him. I would assume it's going to be someone from the college game or from, you know, a quarterback's coach or a someone that's not an offensive coordinator right now. So we'll see that how that happens. But before I go, drop a like, drop a comment. For the culture, obviously. And then if you like this kind of stuff, I'm not going to always do Colts content, but we do a lot of NFL content, a lot of draft content. So subscribe for more of that, and we'll see you later.